Rudy Giuliani has started out very well in the polls, and certainly in part because of his work right after 9/11, and also in cleaning up New York and so on. Yeah. But he's begun to drop in the polls. Do you think that? Why do you think that is? And how can a man like him appeal to a party that has such a strong social conservative base?
Well, several things. First off, I think the tightening in the polls is natural and to be expected. I certainly think the Giuliani campaign anticipated that from the very beginning. It is not a surprise nor a shock. But you know, let's as they say in sports, you got to play the game. Let's play these games. Polls are nice, but it's actually, you'll see the results of what happens, whether it's in New Hampshire or, of course, for us in the Giuliani campaign, we're eagerly looking forward to what happens in the primaries in Florida. But in terms of being able to appeal to the Republican base, I think what's essential to understand about Rudy Giuliani is, I think of all the candidates, Republican or Democrat, he is the one candidate who can appeal to Americans all across this country. He has a 50-state campaign. And I think that's the value that he can bring. And all of us are very concerned about the divisive nature of American politics today. And I think Giuliani can and has that broad-based appeal, having been America's mayor and has that reputation, and that's what I think he can bring to the Oval Office.
What about John McCain? Last I heard, his campaign was dead in the water, ran out of money, it was in mid-July. Apparently he's gotten some first-class endorsements. Lieberman, Des Moines Register, Boston Globe, where else? Somebody else, big, Kurt Schilling of the Boston Red Sox, the pitcher, endorsed him as well. Why is he coming back, do you think?
Well, I think your mention of him kind of hitting rock bottom and seeming to be out of the race is exactly what makes McCain so great. He is the best when things are the worst. And right now, I think many Americans can agree that things are not so good right now. And so he's coming back because people are starting to wonder who was the best person to lead us out of this war than someone like John McCain, a former captain, former prisoner of war. His father was stationed here and was the admiral of the Pacific Command during the Vietnam War, had to make a decision to possibly bomb a place where his son was, but he did it because he knew that they had to take care of the enemies. His grandfather is immortalized on the Mighty Mo as the admiral that helped sign the documents to end the World War II. He is against prolonging this war forever more than anyone. He's got 2 sons going there, and he's been there on the fighting lines, and he wants to get out of it as much as most people, and he can have the experience to do that.
Yeah, but on some issues, as I understand it, he has not made other Republicans happy, particularly the conservative base. I mean, on immigration, which seems to be a very important issue with Republicans this year, he's with the president who wasn't able to get that through, a more moderate position. Also, he's for campaign spending reform, which a lot of the conservative organizations didn't like. So how does he excite that base? That's it seems to me one of the things that happened in the last 2 campaigns was that Karl Rove very strategically and intelligently excited the base, and in 2 very close elections. But who excites the base? I mean, Ron Paul, Rudy Giuliani, 3 wives, John McCain, who sometimes makes common cause with Democrats. I mean,
well, the Republican Party. I'm a lifelong Republican from Kansas. Was working in the Republican Party in junior high school, and Kansas was the most Republican state in the Union. The Republican Party is not growing. In fact, it's going the other way. It's dwindling. The state of California, the party there is practically bankrupt, according to a major news article a couple of weeks ago. In New Hampshire, the Republicans lost control of the legislature since 1870. So the Republican Party, by and large, whether it's at the national, state, or local level, is dwindling, and they're dwindling fast. And county chairmen really know this. We argue, I certainly argue, that Dr. Paul is the real Republican. Keep in mind, in 1976, Dr. Paul was one of the only 4 Republican congressmen who moved on the convention floor in Kansas City to move Ronald Reagan into the nomination over the incumbent Gerald Ford. So Dr. Paul has a long history of that. So we would argue that the Republican Party has turned into the party of big government. I'm a disgruntled Republican. A lot of Republicans around the country have walked away from the party. We believe that Dr. Paul is a true conservative, a real Republican, and you'll see, whether it's here in Hawaii or elsewhere around the country, the new blood that's coming into the party is coming in because of the Ron Paul campaign. So I argue for the party, they should definitely take a look at the Ron Paul campaign.
How do you excite the base?
Okay. Well, I think the reason why the base is getting excited again now and why McCain is rising the polls with the base is because he's a person of strong character. And you mentioned the immigration issue, perfect example of McCain. Someone who knows that he's going to go down trying to fix this issue because, as everyone knows, they've been trying to fix the immigration issue for decades. And McCain went in and had the most difficult conversations with people he disagreed with. And everyone knows that that immigration bill was an example of a mess. Everybody had their issues in it, so it neutralized each other. And interestingly, we just had a conversation, all of us who support McCain throughout the United States, he says, you know, I learned a lesson from that. We really just need to start with the borders. We must secure the borders. And I'm willing to go back to that issue and tackle it the right way.
Giuliani, excite the base? How are you going to do that?
You know,
Explain that.
Dan, you know, some of your comments in some sense feel very similar to, I recall, when Ronald Reagan won the nomination. How can somebody so conservative reach out across the United States? How can he ever win the presidency of the United States? From my perspective, running with Giuliani's campaign, the way you excite the base is with real leadership. Leadership as shown by Giuliani. Now, I don't want to take anything away from the other candidates. Certainly, like I said, I certainly respect all of them. But I think with Rudy Giuliani, he has shown real accountable leadership. I think the American people and conservatives, yes, we have our ideology. Yes, we have our slant of how we want the policies to go. But we value even more than that results. And that's something that Rudy Giuliani delivers.
I mean,
Yeah.
Can't emphasize that his candidate delivered 4,000 babies. Rudy Giuliani is pro-choice, right? On guns, he's supported gun control legislation in the city of New York, and I believe he was caught once wearing a dress on a show, on a press show, and but he's been pro.
It shows he has character.
I don't mean that was a joke. I mean that was something that he did as part of a variety show, I guess, or something. But he's also been fairly good from the gays position on their issues. So isn't that a problem? I mean, particularly with this.
Well, personally for me, Dan, and one of the reasons why I was very excited and very happy to help run Rudy Giuliani's campaign here in Hawaii is because of, in part, those positions. But I want to go further in that, and that is, I think Rudy Giuliani, with all of his positions, with his ability to lead, with his ability to show results, he's the type of candidate who can go into all the states in this country and effectively talk to all of the American people. The traditional way politics has run for the last several elections has been that there's a bunch of red states that will always vote Republican, a bunch of blue states that will always vote Democrat, and then the candidates only concentrate on a handful of 6 to 8 states. Rudy Giuliani is going to be the type of candidate who will be able to take a campaign to all 50 states. He's going to be able to come to places like New Jersey or Connecticut or Pennsylvania or Hawaii, which in the past have not been in play, and be able to talk to these people and have a good shot at winning these races. That's why I think he's a compelling candidate. That's why I think he should be the President of the United States.